Hello and welcome to Module 1 Video A. Today we'll be talking about file types and specifically tabular data. So tabular data is data that has rows and it has columns. A lot of data types fall into this category, and generally how we're going to organize them is our columns are going to be our attributes and our rows are going to be our instances. So for example, if I was collecting data about maybe some people, I'm looking at their name, their age, their height, gender, state and city of residence, these would all go across as my columns. And then as I add data in, I'll be adding rows. So I add a row for Bob, then I come down and I add a row for Jane. Generally, we won't be, as we're collecting data, adding and subtracting columns. Columns are going to be pretty set. But we will add instances. So this is an example for some data that's about some people, but often in research, a lot of times your instances, these are going to be time series. So you might have, an X, Y, and Z coordinate, and then position at time 1, time 2, time 3, time 4. So this is the basic setup for all of the data, or for all of the file types that we will be looking at. So the first file type we'll look at, and probably what you're the most familiar with already, is Excel. So this right here is an Excel workbook. This is also kind of the fanciest file type we'll look at. It's got a lot going on. So this is some data I collected as part of a lab here at USU. You can see I've got multiple tabs on this one. I've got kind of some summary statistics, and then I've got all these different tabs. I've got some graphs in there. So this is an Excel workbook. As you can see, there's portions of it that are in tabular data. Right here, got my column names. I have all my instances coming down. It's time series data. But there's also portions that are non-tabular. I've got some graphs, and then I also have, kind of a separate table over here. So this is an Excel workbook. It's a really common file type, and it works for tabular data and other things as well. Another file type that you might come across often, especially if you're doing research, is a CSV, which stands for comma-separated values, I believe. So interesting thing about the CSV, I can open this up. Oh, not like that. I want to open you with, where's the open with? There we go. If I open this in Notepad, which is just, a text viewer, I can actually see what the data is. So, as the name suggested, they're comma-separated values. So you've got up here all of your column names separated by commas, and then each row is a new each line is a new row, and they're separated here by commas. Viewing it here in a text editor, not super clear, but we can really easily open it up again in Excel. You can see that my computer even kind of automatically recognizes it as an Excel document. So here it is, opened up in Excel. We can see it a bit more clearly. The difference with this is if I tried to go in and say make a graph, when I went to save it, that graph would not be saved. If I saved it as a CSV, I would have to change it to an Excel notebook if I wanted to save that graph. Moving on to a few other data types that you might not be quite as familiar with. First off, we just have some straight text data here. So again, if I open this with, where's my open with button? Sorry, having a hard time seeing here. There we go. So again, open this with Notepad. And again, we see that we kind of have these rows going on, but unlike our CSV, this one is actually separated by tabs. So this is, another common way to do data if you're just keeping it in a text file. We also could have separated it by commas, but tabs are another common choice. So this one you can see doesn't automatically try to open up in Excel. In fact, can I even make it open with Excel? If I go back to open with, Excel doesn't actually even come up. Oh, maybe if I go to choose other app. Nope, Excel isn't coming up. But that doesn't mean I can't. So if I come into Excel, I'm going to go open, browse, and if I go to my desktop, it's only showing Excel files. But if I switch here to all file types, I can now go, I can select that, and I can tell I want to open it up. So here it's going to ask me what my delimiter is. So my delimiter is my separator. As I mentioned, this is delimited by tabs. So I say that it's delimited. I click next. Tab is already automatically selected there. Click next again. It asks me kind of how I want to deal with this date information. I'm just going to say to import it as text. And now it'll take a second to read it all in. But you'll see that we can actually open up with Excel, even though it looks like we initially couldn't. And so there we go again, tabular data. Although you will notice that this one doesn't actually have any built-in column names. We just have rows. So I just want to show you one more file type. This is a .dat file type. This specific one was made with a Campbell Scientific Data Logger. Again, if we open it up in text, this one, to the eye at least, looks a lot like our CSV file did. It's separated by commas. And again, if we open up Excel, go to open, browse to our desktop, tell it to look at all file types, go to this .dat. Again, we want it to be delimited, but this time I'm going to select comma. And you can see that as soon as I select comma, it knows what to do now. So there we go. And here we actually do have some column names. So these have been just a few common file types that you might come across as you're collecting data, doing research, maybe even finding data sets online. Of course, there's many other file types, but this should give you a good introduction to how a lot of them function and how you might be able to easily open them in Excel. As we go on throughout this course, we'll be working more with Jupyter notebooks instead of just Excel, but I think this is really good for visualizing data and helping you understand what they are. So thanks for joining, and come back for part B.